Happy New Year. Welcome back to Wisdom Work with Krista and Christy. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Christy McCaffrey. Hi,
Ah,
Chris.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And my name's Krista Manti. And today, to kick off the new year, we're going to be sharing a conversation today about how we can best focus our minds and hearts around creating space for new growth, new opportunities, and new experiences in 2022. We're often bombarded at the start of the new year with all sorts of different tips and ideas and offers to set goals and make resolutions. But we aren't as often offered the opportunity to find ways to navigate making more space in our lives for all the new energies and experiences that we're hoping to bring into our lives this year. So today, Christy and I are excited to go over all the things that we want to share about what we've learned to create, how to create space in our own lives, and deeply value the inner space needed to make room for all that we are hoping to call into our life. So we will discuss releasing mental and emotional blocks in order to allow us to more easily receive, creating time and space for ourselves to make our inner work a priority, and healthy goal setting and realistic, attainable ideas for how to create healthy and positive change for ourselves in the new year. So, to start off, let's talk first about releasing mental and emotional blocks. So, Chris, what does that look like or mean, and what type of emotional or mental blocks might we have that we don't even realize? And how can we kind of work through these blocks and focus on releasing them so we can be more open to receiving the good stuff?
Right. Receiving the good stuff. That's what we want
Oh,
to get
yeah.
to. That's what we want to get to. And as you said, I think that it's important to acknowledge that when we're hit with all these offers at the beginning of the year, which everyone is, it's the
Hmm.
conversation is all about like setting goals and, making New Year's resolutions. And while that's not a bad thing, we're often not really focusing on what might be in the way of us receiving those things, right?
Hmm.
So I know that you and I have both kind of worked through this a little bit ourselves. For me personally, I've been working on it a lot recently as I realized that I have a lot of blocks to receiving, right? So I've always been someone who feels pretty aligned with the energy that I put out there is the energy that I tend to get back, and that's worked pretty well for me since I've learned that kind of give and take of the energies, right? And how like the
Hmm.
universe really does support you when you decide to show up and bring that energy forth. But what's been fascinating for me is to find recently that there are actually a lot of blocks that I still have to work through, and that uh, you know as I go on this personal growth journey and I'm working to expand my experience, like my life experience, um, all the things that I'm trying to call in, I came to a point where I realized like there almost wasn't enough room in my
Mm.
life for them, right?
Right.
And what I mean by that is that sometimes your energy is so focused on, I don't want to say the wrong things, but certain things that take up so much space and time and energy in your life in a negative way that don't allow you to have the space to bring in these positive experiences or positive opportunities. So,
Hmm.
for me, I have been working really hard recently um, to eliminate as much of that negative energy as I can. We've talked about this in previous episodes about your energy seeping out in ways that you don't want it to, right? So it's about
Hmm.
that, having first that understanding and that awareness of where energy is seeping out of you, right? What relationships in your life are you maybe giving too much energy to and they're not producing positive results for you? Um, what opportunities have you been seeking that maybe you've been throwing so much energy into making this one thing happen, or this one opportunity or collaboration happen in your work or your personal life, and it's not producing anything positive no matter how hard you put all your energy into it. It doesn't mean that you should completely take your focus off of those goals and objectives, but maybe it means that you are putting way too much energy into one space and having too high of an expectation on results, right?
Mm.
So that for me has been hard. I'm not going to lie. As we always say, this work is not easy. But for me, I've decided to really dig my heels in because I know that if I really care about growing as a person, then I have to really dedicate myself to this process. And it means that with everything you learn, usually something else comes down the pike that's a new lesson for you to learn, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have been working really hard to try and release a lot of these emotional and mental blocks. Like I said, it could be like putting too much energy into certain areas of your life that are seeping the energy or not returning positive results to you. Also, you could have emotional and mental blocks just due to the the way we were raised, and it's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no knock on anybody's parents or anybody, period. But you kind of become conditioned to act from a place of like all you've ever known,
Mm-hmm.
or the things you've always been told, or the
Mm-hmm.
opinions that have always been uh, spoken to you, or maybe even sometimes for you. And you take these things on and you don't even realize you're doing it. But what they're doing sometimes, I'm not saying always, no matter how well intended anyone is, sometimes their opinion or that the voice of them is in your head, and it's actually blocking you from connecting with your most authentic self, your own inner voice, and it's also blocking you from receiving what you're trying to receive in terms of personal growth,
Mm-hmm.
new opportunities, new experiences. Sometimes you just don't realize until you take a good look at that it's there.
Yeah.
uh, and I think that so many of us, if we're being honest with ourselves, or you're willing to take that look at yourself, and again, it's not your fault and it's not anybody else's fault, right? It just is.
Right.
uh, these blocks, these mental and emotional blocks are there, and it doesn't mean that they have to stay there, but
Mm-hmm.
awareness is key. I
Yeah.
know we talk about that a whole lot on this podcast, but self-awareness is huge. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to, and this is what I have been doing, is trying to take the most honest look I can at myself, and all the ways of like, what are thought processes that I've had, either ingrained in me,
Mm-hmm.
or that I've latched onto from the world around me, society, whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
or just habits, mental habits, looking at the ones that I don't particularly like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
takes an honest, hard look, right? I have to look at myself and say, what created these, but also like, do I want them in my life still? These thought
Mm-hmm.
processes or these ways of being. And many of them I had to stop and say, no, I don't. Um,
Right.
and then you have to do the work to try and undo them.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is really going to always be the tools we're always throwing at you: journaling and meditation. And I know we might sound like a broken record, but I swear that works for us. It works for Krista
Uh-huh.
and I know it does. Because what it does is, when you start to take an honest look at them and you start to journal about them, or you start to just have like enough quiet time to focus on them, you're able to like nurture them almost, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds counterproductive, but it is kind of what you have to do. You have to nurture yourself and compassionately look at these things and just
Mm-hmm.
make the decision to say, these aren't serving me. Like, thank you for everything you've taught me up into my life up until this point. Thank you for what you're even teaching me right now and existing and being in my way, right? And now I'm ready to release you,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what my next um, move is going to be, or what my next way of thinking is going to be, but I need to make space for that. So I need these blocks, meaning I need you to move.
Yeah.
So it's about, like I said, having compassion, having self-awareness, and legitimately asking these blocks to be removed, right? Asking
Yeah.
for support, asking yourself for the courage to get past them, because they're not
Mm-hmm.
easy to get past. But at the end of the day, like, that's how you're going to be more open to receiving.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love that. What I hear is this deep honoring of what got you here won't get you there.
Mm.
So all the things that worked for you in the past worked up until this point, up until you're feeling the tension with the blocks. Like it's not serving you because there's a block there and you want to go further. You want to cross this threshold, but it won't allow you to because it's only served up until this point. So creating a little bit of like a ceremony around the block of like, thank you, honoring all that it did for you, and then releasing it, letting it go, and then creating something that you want, a new narrative. What is it that you want to do for the next year, 5 years, 10 years? How do you want to show up? What's the new narrative that you want to create and co-create really with you, your highest self, universe, God? Because it takes two to tango, right? We have free will, and I think we're always supported, divinely supported, but we create what we want through our imagination. So utilize that in however you want, like in a ceremony or a journaling exercise or a conversation. A lot can come through in a conversation with a close friend that won't talk about fixing anything, that won't talk about giving you advice or coaching unsolicited. I see that so often in our lives, and it just is it's a beautiful gift to give somebody that you can just be a loving presence, to have them unravel and do their work if they're trying to communicate or have a dialogue with you. Asking the question, how can I best support you in this? As opposed to, well, here's my thoughts, or here's what you could do quickly so that you just get over it. Um, because it really robs them of the opportunity to go through that beautiful experience on their own, which really empowers them further. So that's what we hope to communicate today. I think is really, this is a personal process, but it's not meant to be alone. And like Christy said, these types of things create more of an opening for the things that we really wish for in our lives. So Chris, how can these exercises or this wisdom work that we do, create more of an opening for our deepest desires to come through in our life?
Right. So I want to say that I love how you made that point about the fact that like this is personal, but it's not meant to be completely alone. And that's what we're
Mhm.
showing up here for in the wisdom work. Um, and I think that how it works, like I said, in terms of once you're able to face it and really work on it, it does kind of naturally start to shift because you're putting your effort and your attention into really healing yourself. um, then this opening starts to happen. I know Krista and I had a conversation, this was a few weeks ago, and we're always checking in with each other like, how you doing, where we got our ups and our downs, and some days we're
Yeah.
like, I'm so stuck in the mud, like
Yeah. How
I'm
much time do you have?
seriously. um but it also is really important that you have those people in your life that you can just be so honest with. And like, honestly, my first inclination is when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I want to say like, great, everything's great, great, awesome, and I've learned, especially like in our relationship, because this is like what we're working on sharing with
Mhm.
everybody else, showing up and saying how I really feel. Usually
Yeah.
we end on a positive note, so that's awesome because it gets me back in the right frame of mind.
Right.
But I was going to say, a couple weeks ago we were talking, and I had been doing a lot of work on releasing these inner blocks, right?
Mhm.
Um, and something major shifted one day. And I said to Krista, like, where some days I'm like stuck in the mud, this day in particular, I was like, I don't know what happened, but I feel like amazing, right? Like, and it wasn't for any particular reason. I just felt
Mhm.
light. I felt
Mm.
like so much less stress. I just felt incredible. And I said to Krista, I think what happened is that I just moved like a boulder out of my,
Yeah. You did.
and
Yeah.
I know that that's what happened, right? And all of a sudden I started, like when I was doing my meditations, or when I started thinking about being open and receptive to receiving new things, I realized that I had created this massive amount of inner space
Mhm.
to allow whatever is meant to come in, right? That boulder got out of the way so that
Mhm.
I could now be open and receptive. But I think
Mhm.
to add to that, being open and receptive is truly an intention, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's an active desire, right? You
Mhm.
can't
Mhm.
just be open and receptive and that's it, right? You
Right.
have to really actively every single day be working on uh, maintaining that space whatever space you're able to create, maintaining it with like a lot of care.
Mhm.
And I'll share that today I had a major like goal, work related goal go so south on me, like in a heartbeat. And Krista knows I was telling her about this earlier. And I just want to share this because it really is a learning moment for me of here I thought I had created all this space and everything that I'm hoping to achieve is just going to like naturally fall into this beautiful space that I've created for it, right? But it also doesn't always work exactly as you think it should, right?
Mhm.
So today I found out that just this, a grant I was supposed to get for a project that I was trying to do for my nonprofit fell through. And it was devastating because there are so many things attached to that goal, right? And there were so
Mhm.
many expectations I had personally for it, and plans already lined up, and things that, and it just like the rug got pulled out from underneath of me. And I initially was so sad and so
Yeah.
frustrated, but I quickly, because of this work, was able to pivot, right? And I had to remind myself, you are supported, you are still on the right path, but sometimes there's detours, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes there's things that just come up and take you in a direction. Hopefully this will actually go in a better direction, right? Somehow some new opportunity will align better with my mission
Mhm.
and what I was trying to do with this grant. Um, but it also was a moment for me to realize like I might still have some blocks here, right? I might
Mhm.
still be, not intentionally, but I might still be blocking things from aligning the way I want them to or need them to. And I
Mhm.
wanted to share that as I was, always Instagram speaking, dropping knowledge on us. Um, I came across this quote from Sahara Rose, and she says, "The universe is not here to test you, but rather mirror back what's still present inside of you."
Mm.
Right? So at first I thought, okay, I'm being tested. I get it. And then I read that quote and I'm like, a test or not, it really is here to show me that like I still have a little bit of work to do and I still have some more space that I need to create in order to allow things to flow a little bit more organically for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I think that it's just important for us all to like really give ourselves the emotional support you need in those moments, those stressful moments when things aren't going exactly how you planned, or the goals that you set out don't really come to fruition exactly as you thought they would.
Mhm.
The wisdom work journey is really about showing up for yourself in those moments of disappointment and showing
Yeah.
up for yourself in those moments of frustration, and just reminding yourself like, I'm going to be okay. This will work out however it's going to work out, right? But I am going to be okay.
Mhm.
And I can't let it stop me, right? I can't let these things stop me from still continuing to try to evolve and move forward. Um,
Mhm.
so just on the conversation of, I'm going to just finish this one topic with sharing this exercise with you about creating space and being open to receiving. I shared this with Krista about a month ago, and we've both been using this practice on and off.
Mhm.
Um, but I think we've both been really finding a lot of success with it. No?
It's been so helpful for me. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
I'm very excited that you're going to share this with everybody.
Good. Me too. And it has been huge for me. And I used it today in this circumstance where I was met with all this frustration. So I told Krista, drew out one day on a piece of paper, a kind of a diagram where there's a circle in the center. And then there's like rings, probably about 4 or 5 rings that come out off of that main circle, right? And I wrote down that in the center there is me. It's my truest, deepest truth and self is at the core, right? And then right outside of that is like my immediate family, my husband and my children. Right outside of that is my extended family. Both sides of me and my husband's family, like those people are all on that ring. Then friends, and then like my friends, and then the fifth is like kind of like neighbors, acquaintances, or anybody else that falls in that category. And then you have space beyond that ring. And this is how I choose to look at it. So that space in the center, that core, that is my most sacred, special, quiet, peaceful place. And I need to protect that at all costs, right? So the people that are allowed closest to that are the next ring out, my husband and my kids. And the people closest to that, the rings go out as I explained who falls in those categories. If at any point someone or something kind of comes a little too close to that space and causes me to feel like attacked or causes me to feel um like a negative energy, I visualize myself asking them to move a little further away for right now, right? And I kind of breathe them into a space that's a little further away from me. So I'm not like kicking people out, but it's a mental thing. It's about protecting or learning how to really protect that inner space that's your own, right? And cultivate this uh boundary system, I guess, really, of who's allowed to come close to that, right? Who's allowed to enter that space and affect that space, right? Because if that space is negatively affected, it impacts every single thing in your life.
Hmm.
And so it's about switching your mindset, I guess, to realize that your peace, your own inner peace and calm, is not at the hands of the world around you.
I love that. That's so well said.
Your inner peace and calm is in your control.
Hmm.
You get to decide who comes close enough to that peace every single day. And it's fluid, like the characters in your life come and go in different waves. And some days you're like, some energy is too much for me and I need to kind of push it away a little bit. Sometimes I want you a little closer, and this is like, this feels good. But yeah, ultimately it's about the external world does not have a say in what your internal environment is.
Mm.
Only you do.
I love that so much. Oh my God, so beautiful.
So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, you're welcome. And Krista and I have been really using that as like a tool every single day. And I think we've both been finding like a lot of value in it, because
Hmm.
it puts the control back in your own hands, just in terms
Hmm.
of that, your peace, your inner peace. And
Yeah.
we know how important that is. And then I just want to say that when I finally got to a point where I really had this working good, and in conjunction with the fact that I've been moving boulders and creating more space, um, if I really visualize that space inside me now, it is so calm. Like, it's pretty calm 90% of the time. And that's like
Mm.
significantly different than even like 6 months ago,
Yeah.
you know, because I have been so intentional about it every single day. And I come
Mm.
back to, I want that space. I want to create and maintain this space so that like all the good things I'm trying to call into my life and the experiences and the opportunities will have space to enter.
Mm.
So
I love
I
that.
hope that everybody else can use that too. And um, that kind of sets us up for what we were going to roll into next, Chris, about
Yeah.
talking about goal setting and attainable
Right.
ideas for creating a healthy and positive change in our lives. So can you talk to us about, as we head into this new year, how can we have a healthier perspective? How can we
Mm.
use these kind of tools that we just talked about creating space and being open and receptive? How can we use that hand in hand with, some of your ideas and tools around healthy change, healthy expectations, and healthy goal setting?
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, so goal setting is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
And I think what I always talk to clients about, and just I'm curious when I hear people, because, of course, health is a big one for a lot of people around the new year. So diet and exercise come into play. And I'm always curious about what's the intention behind it. You had mentioned being attached to the results previously when we were talking about the blocks, which I think is it's such an important mindset awareness to talk about when setting goals. Like, what is the intention of your goals? Is it to look some different differently, or is it to feel differently? And I always encourage people to think about the feeling. How do you want to feel? Because there's a lot of different ways to get there as opposed to the results. And honestly, we don't really have a lot of control over results. We have a lot of control over behaviors. So if we can talk about intentional behaviors that we want to carry into the new year and intentional ways of being to remove blocks, that's something within our control as opposed to, I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 months. It's like, well, okay, how do you want to do that? Do you want to incorporate more vegetables and set a goal around, I'll eat three servings of vegetables a day and exercise 30 minutes 3 days a week? Those are behavioral goals that you can have control over. So that's what I want to impart and inspire people to think about when setting goals, when setting intentions, but also being really specific, being really realistic, and always incorporating accountability partners. So whoever are those people in your life that you feel safe with, that you trust, that they're not going to shame you if you don't reach a goal, people that will cheer you on no matter what, enlist those people, and maybe you can offer your services in exchange of, hey, let's be intention buddies, or let's be goal setting buddies, or do you want to be workout buddies? Everything helps when you have a buddy. I think it just makes it more fun. You feel like you have to answer to somebody, so you're more likely to do your homework. I mean, it's a lot of psychological stuff that comes into accomplishing your goals. So some of the tips that I've learned over the years around goal setting is setting SMART goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So with this, an example of this, of a SMART goal would be, if people say, I want to exercise more, rather than just having this abyss of exercise more, like that's not attainable, it's not realistic, we don't know in what time frame. So you could say, I want to walk 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks. Does that make sense? So it's specific, you know exactly how to measure it. It's attainable because I can do 3 days a week. 30 minutes doesn't seem that much. It's realistic for my lifestyle, and it's timely. I said within the next 2 weeks. So then I can check in with my accountability buddy or an app or whatever and just track my progress, see how I'm doing, see if I feel like that is realistic. Maybe it was too much. Maybe it was too simple. I could add another day. I could take a day off. So you can just assess non-judgmentally, non-critically, and say, how do I want to ramp it up, or how do I want to make it more manageable? So
That
just
makes so much
go ahead.
sense. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
uh, instead of just lobbing a goal out there, this has structure
Yeah.
to it. And that's the
Right.
difference, right?
Yeah.
It's the difference between saying, like, I'm going to exercise more and I'm going to have zero plan on how I'm going to execute that,
Yeah.
as opposed to this SMART goal, which makes it
Yeah.
just makes so much sense. So sorry, I didn't mean to
It's
cut
so
you off.
smart. That's
It
okay.
is. It is. It's so smart.
So smart. But yeah, I think too, what also helps me and what has helped clients in the past is that you schedule it. Just like any other important meeting, any other important thing that you have to do in your life, you put it on the calendar, you set time aside for when you're going to work out. You're going to set time aside for when you want a meal plan, or when you want to budget for your food, or what your recipes you want to cook this week. Setting that time aside and protecting it like it is sacred, because again, we talk about this, nourishment is a form of self-care. So prioritizing that is really important for you and also for your family. So making sure that you're getting your sweating in and getting your nutrition in is really important. So and if weight loss is a goal, it will happen naturally. That's what I want to really emphasize. I feel like so many people are focused on the weight loss, or focused on trying to be a different size, and setting yourself up for failure by focusing on that result is not going to make you happy. So focus on the behaviors that you know are going to feel good in your body. The foods that feel right in your body. The exercises that feel right for your body. And that can change. So setting these flexible um, systems, putting a system in place, putting some structure there, but then also being fluid with that, and not too rigid is, I think, very important also.
Yeah. Oh, You're always dropping the wisdom on us, especially when
I'm
it
so
comes
glad.
comes to all of that kind of stuff. And I wanted to talk a little bit too about our mindset and our approach
Hmm.
to like those expectations, right? So
Hmm.
uh, any goal that you're setting, how can we really focus on having a healthy mindset when it comes to like expectations?
Yes, I love that question. And I think managing expectations is so huge in all areas of life. So, if you're doing a goal with a buddy, having that conversation with the buddy, what happens if I miss the goal? How do I want you to react? Is this way? Or how do I want myself to react? Thinking through what could potentially come up as an obstacle over the next 2 weeks during my walking 3 days a week, 30 minutes a day kind of situation. So I think planning really helps with managing expectations, looking at your weeks ahead, seeing when's the night out you're going out to a restaurant to eat versus being home to eat. Or when are you going to be able to do your walks? It's only 3 days, so plot that out. And then being really, really, really gentle with yourself if you don't hit the goal, and just assessing, like I said, non-judgmentally, non-critically, but seeing, how did it go? How did it look the last 2 weeks? And how can we improve on that the next 2 weeks? And always kind of reassessing, because these are our intentions or goals in motion. You have 365 days to work on them. So it doesn't have to be that you hit it right off the bat. It can just be um, this living kind of intention and a living goal where it can be moving, it can be increasing, it can be decreasing based on what you have going on. Different seasons can change things too.
I think it's so important to point all of that out because sometimes people just get frustrated the first time
Yeah.
anything goes askew
Mhm.
in a new
Mhm.
year plan, right? And you give up because you're
Yep.
like, well, it didn't go like I thought it would. So now I'm just going to stop. And
Right.
I also wanted to point out that I think when you're setting big goals for yourself, like for an entire year, right? So in
Mhm.
2022, I want to call this into my life, like financially, or this into my life, career wise or personally. That you also, much to the point of you were saying, like having a plan,
Mhm.
um, you really have to take actionable steps towards
Mhm.
those goals, right?
Right.
And give yourself the time for those actionable steps to play out, right? So if it's an
Mhm.
enormous goal that you have for the entire year, say, right? Don't
Mhm.
expect that goal to be met in February
Right.
just by thinking about it,
Right.
right? So it's not
When you
enough
pray,
to
move your feet.
when you pray, move your feet. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's both.
Exactly. It can't be,
Mhm.
even when we talk about manifesting and
Mhm.
um, things like that, it's not enough to just say, I want this thing or I
Right.
want this circumstance. You have to actively, as you said earlier, co create
Mhm.
what you're trying to experience, right?
Right.
So, and it doesn't have to be huge action all at once. It's really, I have found personally, the greatest um, overall movement I've seen towards my own goals is in the daily little steps and
Amen,
action
sister.
that I take,
Same. Same.
right?
Yeah, that alignment is so crucial, because I love that you posted the hustling is the old way and the alignment is the new way. I think that's so brilliant. This day and age, it's like if we can do our sacred starts or in the morning or whenever, get in alignment of every step I make, every word I speak today will be in the alignment of my highest self. Then over the period of weeks, months, years, you are being different. You are a different person, which is, we want to evolve. So this is all part of the path.
Totally, totally. And I think maybe just to wrap up, let's share, you and I, our own goals for
Hmm.
2022, just to kind of get everybody in the flow of thinking about what are the types of things we can focus on going forward. I'll start. That
Yes.
I think, um, as I talked about that whole diagram and process, that's going to be like my number one point of focus is now
Mm.
that I have created a significant amount of space, right?
Hmm.
Created a significant amount of new understanding and self awareness around how I want to feel. just like you
Mm-hmm.
were saying, I want to maintain that, right? So
Yes.
heading into the new year, that really is my number one goal, is to keep my inner peace a priority,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that all the other big or little goals that I have really can't be achieved if I am not at a good baseline space of being
Mm-hmm.
calm, open, receptive, and willing to ride the wave. We
Yep.
always talk about this too. Like, you have to be willing to go with the ebb and the flow and the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs that life is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some other goals for me personally are just, wellness is always top of the mind for me, in terms of making sure. I've also really gotten to a place where I'm pretty good at managing my stress. Managing being the key word there. Okay.
Not
Stress is
eliminating.
still a very real part of my everyday experience, but I have worked very hard at trying to manage it. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay the path with that too. And then lastly, Krista and I have some really exciting goals ourselves. I think that they're the bigger things, that we want to create more offerings for our community. We want to grow our community. We really just want to make this like a really powerful, beautiful experience for every single person who enters the Wisdom Work community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do want to set my sights on all of those things that we're trying to achieve.
Amen. So it shall be. That's
So
all.
shall be.
Oh
How
my
about
gosh.
you?
I love those goals. So for me, we spend a ton of money on food because it's so important to us to eat really good quality and local and all that stuff. So one of my specific goals is to really plan out meals, shopping lists, recipes, what I'm going to cook when, that kind of thing, so that we are not wasting as much food and we're not spending as much on food. So that's one of my big ones this year. I've never been like a really good meal planner. We just kind of go with what we feel like, and I just get a whole bunch of groceries in the beginning of the week. So this year I want to be very proactive about more meal planning. So if any of the listeners are good at this, please holla at me and let me know some tips, because I think I'm going to need some help on that one. And then, as always, continuing to I want to feel really strong in my body, and continue with my wellness practices and my emotional wellness and all the things that I have in place. Just really keep that going and continuing with my healing and the day to day. I'd say each day practicing the sacred start, which I had mentioned before, just focusing on a couple moments before I hit the ground running to just breathe or pull a card or do a quick meditation, just to think about some gratitude. Anything little for me in those first few moments really can set the tone differently for me during the day. So I want to continue that. And then John Paul and I have a couple relationship goals where we want to do a date night once a week, and then have one night each a week that we do our own thing, so we can kind of get out and do, like, I can do a girls' night, he can do a guys' night, or we just have a night off of parenting. And
Love that.
yeah, that's really important to us. And the definitely business goals, I have a ton of those too. So we'll see how the year goes, but I definitely love setting this intention and this space during the first of the year and allowing it to carry on. And so excited to help every one of our listeners who want to participate in our new offering in January.
Yes. So let's talk about that. We
Yes.
are basically going to be expanding upon this conversation on January 22nd, 2022. It's a Saturday. Krista and I are going to be hosting a 2-hour live event where we are going to dive deeper into some of these, actionable exercises for
Hmm.
expansion and growth and healthy goal setting. Just like I said, it kind of just expanding upon what we talked about today, but making it more of like kind of like a ceremony where
Yeah.
we're holding space for everybody that comes to really set you up for success in terms of what your own goals are, and how we can navigate this goal setting process in a healthy way,
Hmm.
and continue with this wisdom work journey, and help everybody kind of take things up a notch.
Yay! I'm so excited for that. That's going
Me
to be a
too.
beautiful event.
It really is. So we hope that
Yeah.
you'll join us. Please save the date. We will have a link in the show notes for this episode for you to sign up. We will have a link in our Wisdom Work profile on Instagram. So that's at the Wisdom Work.
Mhm.
And Krista and I will both be sharing as well on our own social media accounts at Christy McCaffrey, at Krista Manti. So stay tuned for more details on that. And please sign up. Please join us. We would love to have you. And I wish everyone a beautiful start to this new year. Krista and I know I can speak for both of us when I say this. We're wishing you nothing but the absolute best in balance and wellness and healing as
Mm.
you enter this new year.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
See you
Happy New
next
Year.
time.